So studies on sexism priming suggest that when one is primed with sexism, they're more likely to guide their decision-making based on gender stereotypes. Research further emphasizes that exposure to sexism inherently influences the way in which women and their abilities are viewed by others, despite equal standing and qualifications with men. Previous research has also shown a significant interaction between right-wing authoritarianism, RWA attitudes, and the expression of sexist attitudes on both the benevolent and hostile levels. Specifically, high RWA scores were a positive predictor of benevolent sexism in men and a positive predictor of both hostile sexism and benevolent sexism in women. In the current research, we wanted to explore whether exposure to sexism in the form of tweets could influence the ways in which participants viewed the validity of a news article written by a woman compared to one written by a man. We hypothesized that the priming of sexism would have a significant effect on the rating of a news article where there was a male or female author, and that those who scored high on the RWA scale in the sexism priming condition would report less trust in a women's article compared to other conditions. So just going into our methods here, we had 46 undergraduate students from the New England area, and they were recruited both online and in person before and after the COVID-19 pandemic. These participants were conveniently sampled and filled out various measures such as the RWA scale, and they were randomly selected to view and memorize the content of either control or sexist images in the form of tweets, followed by a news article written by a man or woman which they read and completed measures about what they read. So for these measures as well, sexism priming in the form of the tweets, we use the ambivalent sexism inventory statements developed by Glick and Fisk. And for the RWA scale, we use Zackerson's 15-item scale. And for the author manipulation and the ratings, we used the tweets and exact identical wording for both of the tweets. And for the ratings of the news article, participants rated it based on validity, trustworthiness, factuality, falseness, fake news, basically, overall likability, and well-writtenness.
For the results, a 2x2 analysis of variance was conducted to predict validity ratings separately for people high and low in RWA. 4 t-tests were also done to determine the simple effect of author gender in each condition to look at the pattern of results for people both low and high in RWA. For those low in RWA, ratings of the female essay rose in the sexism condition compared to the control. It appeared that those high in RWA did not show bias in the control condition, where the male and female authors were rated as equally valid. Participants viewed both the authors as less valid in the sexism condition compared to the control, but the female author was rated as less valid than the male author. This was partially consistent with our hypothesis, as we expected that those high in RWA would view a male author's story as more valid, regardless of if they were primed with sexist statements or not.
In conclusion, while not statistically significant, the results suggest that sexism manipulation has a somewhat different effect on how low and high RWA participants rated the male and female essays. People who are low in RWA seem to respond to the sexism manipulation by increasing the validity of the female author. This is consistent with past research, where being exposed to benevolent sexism actually made men view women as more equal. While our study primed sexism using a combination of hostile and benevolent sexism, future studies should examine how results may differ when priming with hostile and benevolent sexism separately. This subject is worth exploring further, as social media contains increasing amounts of online harassment and sexism, and social media is also where 62% of adults report getting news from. Finally, because our study was conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic, there are potential confounds of history effects and reduced sample size.